Every ship is haunted by ghosts yet to come. On board, you live with your crew. Every day you see their faces. You come to know them like brothers and sisters, sons and daughters. You learn to trust them, to rely on them to do their duty, and from that trust, great strength is born. As captain, I am father to my crew, stern and loving in equal measure. I make them ready, I make them strong, and I love them for it. Space is unforgiving. It cares nothing for love. Death comes too quickly. One mistake, one unlucky hit, and the shield fails. The hull cracks, and they are gone. Or rather, their bodies are gone. Their ghosts linger in my memory. Every compartment thronged with those who have gone before. The new recruits do not see the ghosts. It is only survivors who know this ship is haunted. We fight for the dead as much as the living, not to honor their sacrifice or their memory, but because they will judge us if we fail. We fight so that one day victory will free us from the shadow of those who have gone before. This ship has many, many ghosts. But I must make more before I am done.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. So, do you know what this trailer was? Not many people probably know. You may know the voiceover, but interesting enough, this is a Kickstarter, a failed one that flew fairly under the radar. And that's one of the big things. Strangely enough, I don't see many stories about it. I don't see many people talking about this. I don't see many people complaining about. Probably I saw a lot during the forums, but now then the forums are dead. The domain of the main site, it's over. The only thing then you can see is the comments on the Kickstarter page. And well, even those are far and few between. So today I want to get a little bit of a look on this. Show you an interesting look on the mandate. And in the end, maybe give you a conclusion probably where it fails. But to be honest, it's very easy to know where it did fail. So, ladies and gentlemen, buckle up, grab your seatbelts or whatever. It's time to look on the mandate. Look, I will be entirely honest. I'm a bit of an asshole. To say a bit is a little bit of an understatement. But you catch my drift. But even I will not come here and sit on my chair and say to you, then I know why the project failed. Mismanagement, overblow, ambition, lack of a understanding how a development would work. Many things could lead to this snowball of events that then end up failing so hard. Now, an interesting fact is this game in theory started development pre-2013. As I was made aware of the Kickstarter, not only the Kickstarter, but from the development and everything, on November 2013. 20 of November of 2013. For some of you, you may be already aware where I'm going with that, but let me hold for a second. Now, as I was saying before, I will not be saying why. I don't have the answers, and the people who probably do have the answer will not come forward. My objective of this video is simply tell you the tale as I saw it, and with a little bit of research on the side for what I did. And I don't think we're gonna come to any big conclusion. This is just maybe a warning. And to be far honest, I think this warning already rang to many people. Kickstarters itself are not something that larger. You don't see 2 or 3 Kickstarters pop in and drop in every day or so. Now, to start this thing, I need to tell you how I end up aware of that project. And the answer, well, the answer is Angry Joe. Look, nowadays I don't watch much Angry Joe, to be honest. It will be placing a couple years to since I watch him. And Angry Joe, he has two states: overly angry or overly excited. And on this note, he was overly excited. The fact was, this was not the first project, and he got me in hooked. Sadly, at the moment, I was not financially well to put up a reasonable quantity of money on a second quick Kickstarter. Although, to his credit, the first one that he kinda hyped up, it ended up coming around. With its Brock development, maybe not near the way it should be, but well, it get its release. Now we're gonna let a little bit of his own words take it, and let's hope we don't get a claim.
Guys, I really, really need your help for this. What if I told you that there was right now a dream game of mine that is trying to be made and it needs your support and it's getting mostly overlooked because of the unfortunate timing? I mean, think about it. Right now, the news cycle is just getting sucked up by the black holes that is the PlayStation 4, that is the Xbox One, that is the news cycle for new PC games and graphics cards and other Kickstarter projects that have come before it in the space genre. So there are so much stuff out there right now, and I really need to just for a few minutes of your time focus your attention on what I think is a game that you will freaking love. So here's the website, here's the Kickstarter page, the mandate, okay? And as you can see, the project started on October the 3rd, October, and it lasts through November, the next gen systems, and ends right at the beginning of December, right before Christmas, the month of Christmas. It has to go through Thanksgiving. It has to go through all these different things. And so I think that's part of the reason why not a lot of people know about it. And I want to do my part to spread the word for a concept that is literally my dream game. I swear to you guys, if you just give it a chance, if you just watch the video, I think it's something that you're going to be interested in. So right now they're at a $500,000 goal to get this game made, which is extremely reasonable. There are other games out there that have this type of scope that costs more, that needs more money. This goal is actually quite low if you ask me.
Interesting thing is to remember that Phoenix Point 2 started with a quite small goal of 500. Of course, with time goes on, they end up getting a larger quantity of money. For example, they had the deal with Epic Store, and although yes, this is more to the late development, you too have to remember they sold the game on their own store, so they raise up probably a lot more. In the end, it's interesting to see that both of the games had the same amount of quote-unquote money to start on for their campaign alone. The only difference is Phoenix Point did already said they had a little bit of development. Not only development, but a little bit of financial help to start the development of the game. While talking about the mandate, that was not very well qualified. Here's where I question if we were literally being too much, how can I say, optimistic about the cost of a game like this, because as you can say, the game is doing a lot more things. If you simply strip down to layers, Phoenix Point has the tactical and the geoscape layer, the tactical and the strategic layer. While the Mandate has 4 layers. You have the ship combat layer, you have the crew and quest and RPG layer, the roleplay aspect or roleplay layer. You have the space combat layer, and you have the Galaxy, aka the management layer. It doubles the amount of things than other games, one game with the same amount of money, asking about the same amount of money, were doing. So saying then the mandate with just that amount of money had chance to succeed, I don't know, maybe was a little misleading or too much optimistic. In the end, that was probably one of the mistakes, but again, it was during the early years of Kickstarter, so people were a lot more optimistic. People were a lot more easily impressionable. And stretch goals were always a thing. We don't know how bad things end up with the financial management. And as I said before, I don't want to be totally an asshole, and I don't blame Angry Joe for it. He seems to be just overly excited, as many people were, about the project. In all honest, we all had our reasons for backing the project or not. One of the only big problems that I see right now is the fact that not many people talked about the mandate after. To the point that if you do a look, you're going to still see the game itself. If you search on Google or any other search engine, the first things that you're going to still get, the first results, gonna be the Angry Joe video, the trailers for the game, the Facebook, the Twitter, and the Kickstarter page. There's no article or any other thing talking about how the game was dead. And let's remind it, the game raised 1,600 backers. These people throw 700K on this project. Plus what people throw on PayPal, because that was a thing. The mandate after not only sell the late backer project, they did have their own PayPal stuff. And the PayPal stuff ran probably until the death of the main side of the game. But that's a little bit of a story for later date on the video.
You are too young to remember the Battle of Tagisha. We had part of the enemy's force under our guns, but we knew that reinforcements could come through the gate at any minute. I ordered the Archangel to block the gate. Her captain and crew saw I had just ordered her to die. They did not hesitate. They did their duty. They held the gate. There were no survivors, and the battle was won. I thought that would be the end of the rebels all those years ago. I never thought it would come to this. You know the situation. The rebels have the advantage. Their ships advance towards the core faster than we can raise our defenses. The Grand Fleet is scattered and leaderless. We need to strike back and slow the rebels. Against my advice, the Empress has given you the authority to act in her name. Use it to take the supplies and salvage what you need. You will find that loyalty to the Empress is in scarce supply. The rebellion did not spring from nothing. It has a stink of treachery about it, so do not trust the nobles. Some want to claim the throne for themselves. Others are cowards who will flock to the winning side no matter what that is. You act for the Empress. She rules the galaxy. Remind them of that. Accept no disobedience and give no quarter. Treat your crew with honor, but not with kindness. You do them no favors by being their friend. Friends make merry, give consolation, or mourn their fallen comrades after a defeat. A captain leads. A captain wins. Are you the captain we need? I do not know. I have read your file. The officer in that file is a disgrace. That officer would never obey. That officer has no understanding of duty. There is only one true test of character. I only knew the captain of the Archangel in that moment of supreme sacrifice. Who are you, Captain? Will you do your duty for the mandate?
Well, just look on the hype is not gonna give us anything. The hype pitch from Angry Joe or for anyone else, because he was not alone. A lot of people try not only jump in the hype, but wrangle a lot of other people in. We have to kind of give a look on the developer itself, because, well, he probably speak for himself, and kind of may prove some of the facts that I said. Like I said, many of the biggest and most successful Kickstarters already start with a reasonable amount of development. They already have betas, alphas, they already have a larger amount of coding already being built on the game. They had a reasonable amount of financial backing. They are mostly looking out for people to finish the game. Well, of course, there are the case those Kickstarters really start from scratch and end up doing something great. But, as I'm saying, most of the larger success stand out to already had something started. And what they needed was the last push. That was a similarity with most of the fails and the larger ones, to be honest. So, here I have the video, the quote-unquote first development blog we had from the creators of the game.
Hey folks, my name's Garrett A.J. I'm the art director for The Mandate. I'm coming to you from my studio here in Sacramento, California. And I'm one of many people who are speckled all over the world who are trying to come together to build our dream game here. Now, enough about me. Let's talk about the game. The Mandate. It is a sci-fi RPG. I'm sure you know that by now. But what makes this game unique is that we're trying to take the sci-fi genre, the sci-fi RPG genre, to the next level. Now, the idea came to us when we were really thinking about what's missing from, the sci-fi RPGs where you're flying around as a spaceship in space. And we realized after we looked at all the shows that we know and love, the Battlestar Galactica and Star Trek and Firefly, is that the stuff that makes those shows really great is the crew, the story that takes place on board the spaceship, and we're missing that. So we wanted to come together and really make a game that represents that kind of feeling, that kind of role play.
I have to say that here on this part, he's not lying. And interesting enough, it's not for only the space genre, but many of the more strategy games, they do fail a little bit on making you care about your units. Fire Emblem is one of the many exceptions to that rule, since you have permadeath and since you have various stories attached to those characters. Now, that would be very difficult on a game like The Mandate, since you wouldn't be needing to replenish your characters very easily. Like, death would be something that would happen quite frequent, and it would be that balance of, well, would I lost a character and that would affect an entire single player story about that character, like Fire Emblem? Or that character is that story is generic, it can happen with another character. That is one of those things that I kind of think, maybe it was a too good idea for a game at that age. Phantom Doctrine was able to do that in a very interesting way, by simply generating a couple of events, random events during your playthrough, and picking out of the hat the agent then would participate on those. Of course, in time, some events could lead to a chain, or some events on itself could consign to be close by each other. The game could add a little bit of taglines to each of the characters to make sure that some events triggers and some don't. Of course, I do believe still for 2013 that may be a too big enough idea. And again, that is what I see. Too much ambition, too much thing on a too little of a budget. Maybe. Sadly enough, again, we're never gonna have the real answers about this.
The gameplay is actually quite simple when you think about it. You are the captain on board your spaceship. You get to walk around. You get to interact with your crew. Their stories are important. And when you get into space battles, you get to zoom out and fight ship to ship. This is just like the shows that we know and love. And this is the type of experience we want to make with the Mandate. So you're going to be able to fly that ship around the galaxy, interact with other ships, either make peace with them or fight them. It'll be up to you. You'll get to visit different systems, different bases, look for resources, look for hidden treasures, whatever you want to do. It's your galaxy, it's your sandbox. You get to do it. And we are currently writing 1,500 years of lore that will populate the universe. So there's guaranteed to be all sorts of wonderful story nooks and crannies built into the game by the time you get it. We really want to focus on our interactions with the crew because we believe that that'll be a great source of gameplay and storytelling. We want them to become important in your universe. And we also want them to be important to you when you go into battle because you're not just defending your ship. You're also defending your crew. You don't want them to get killed in a boarding operation. You don't want them to get sucked out into space when a torpedo hits your ship just right. You want them to survive. You're not just protecting your hull, you're protecting the people inside. Now, as a captain, during combat, you're not just going to be able to fly your ship, you're also going to be able to zoom in and control your crew. You can either trust your AI and your captains to take care of, to fight off boarding parties for you, or you can go in there and do it yourself. It's all risk, and it's all part of taking the gameplay of fighting ship to the next level. When it comes to your spaceship, you'll be able to fully customize it. You'll also be able to build space stations. Now, this sounds complicated, but actually, it's easier for us to do it this way. Instead of building hundreds of space stations from scratch, we're going to build a bunch of modules, and the different variations of these modules will equal hundreds of different spaceship designs. It's kind of like Legos, but with spaceships. We're going to supply you the parts, and you guys supply the designs. I'm sure you guys can tell that this project is still in the concept pre-production phase. Now, we brought it to you at this stage on purpose because we take pre-production very seriously. We want to make sure that the foundation of the game is sturdy before we build a game on top of it. We've got some gameplay in the works, but it's not ready to show. We want to make sure that we get the framework done before we bring in the people to build all the assets for the game. We do have a ship designer and character creator that's on the way that will give you guys an idea of how we want to do the gameplay. But currently, we want to make sure that we can fund the process of getting all of the concepts and pre-production ready to go. This is an expensive stage, and we want to make sure that we do that right so that we can give you guys the best bang for your buck. It's all about efficiency. That's why we're doing the modular system. We don't believe in reinventing the wheel. We're going to be using a lot of middleware. We're going to be using Unity. All the assets that are available to us to make a video game, we're going to use those things so that we don't spend too much time trying to build something from scratch. And that's why we came to you guys to help us make this dream a reality. This isn't just another space-based RPG. This is the way that we want these games to be made in the future. And we want to do this one right. So thanks for watching. I hope you stay tuned for our other videos. We're going to go into way more depth about how co-op gameplay will work. Go into more depth about our storytelling and our storyline. We have a fantastic writer, and we'll definitely go into more depth on how space battles will work when you're having to switch between the inside of your ship and the outside of your ship. Thanks for watching. See you next time.
Well, so, fair to say, as I said, the game was too ambitious, and with a release date for 2015. Again, very, very ambitious. With a very even lesser than a alpha version, as the developer even said they didn't have that much. The reality is simple. It was a too much ambitious project, and it has Kickstarter goals that was not something that we have ever seen before. We already saw many times Kickstarters being too much ambitions. It was not news. Now, in 2016 is when many people starts to seeing, well, many people were already far from admitting that things were out of their way, then probably the game never would come, and things like that. People, that is something that many people admitted or already had their own beliefs. Now, again, one of my interesting points were the fact that no one else were talking about. There were many and many other pieces of many other Kickstarters with similar budgets or even a little less budget end up having a reasonable amount of scrutiny put on it. But the mandate never shined to anyone. Well, on November 2016, a lot of the things changed. One of the first things was they admitted that the project was too big for what they had. And not only that, but they would be giving early access on the beginning of 2017. Well, you may believe 2017 came and went and there is no early access. But well, we have a video from the developer. One of the last videos the developer had to us to kind of show what was the state of the game. Not the game itself, but you will see the state of the development of the game. Let's give a look on this video.
Hi, my name is Greg. I'm a 3D environment artist on The Mandate, and we're here to talk about the game.
Hi, my name is Emily. I was living in London, and then I moved to Slovakia about 6 months ago to join the team.
I'm originally from New York. I've been working in games for about 5 years, working at Carnegie Mellon and some couple of other game studios. I joined the project about halfway through the Kickstarter. If you've seen the David Bradley trailer, then that's where I kind of came in. So that was like the first thing I did on the project. And I've been just making really cool art since then.
I'm a user experience researcher, so you might have seen the questionnaire that I sent to you so that we could understand better our player's profile. And I'm also part of the writing team.
Currently, what we've been working on is making sure that the art and the story all match up nice and they go together really well. So currently, I've been working on a lot of interesting stuff for adventure mode, things like SOS beacons or derelict ships that are on fire in space, which doesn't really make a lot of sense, but we figured that it's all for the fun.
Yeah, so since I arrived, we've been reworking the main storyline, and we've written down the main story arc. We've added a prologue to that so that there is more personal reason for our player to go out in the French cluster and investigate the background conflict that is taking place around there. And that's why Greg was talking to you about a derelict ship.
Yeah, we were wanting to really make sure that that the story is really engaging for this game, and that required a lot of really unique and interesting art elements to be able to kind of like really push that experience, so that when you're flying around in space, you really feel like you're looking at not just 3D models or textures or whatever, but you're really kind of exploring this kind of massive world.
Yeah, one of the things that we've reworked on more recently was the personality of each of the factions, for example, and figure out how the visual could really respond to what we wanted each of the factions to feel like. So you've probably heard of the Arkwright, for example, and we kind of really like them, the both of us. And so the Arkwright people are how can we say, they're the new nobility kind of thing, but at the same time, they build really sturdy things and really good ships. They have a great reputation, but they're a bit snobbish kind of people. And so the dialogue is trying to voice these personalities, but also definitely the visuals that the artists are creating.
Yeah. We wanted to make sure that each faction really has a unique sort of element to them. So, we have the Arkrights, and we also have the Osmani, who are We have their leader behind me, Sultana Sadit. And we really wanted to kind of make each of them unique. So we spent a lot of time really fleshing out like your ship bridge, where you're going to spend a lot of time, and how kind of like your window to the rest of the universe, also where you're going to get missions from your officers, as well as other people like the Romanov, the Mandate, and all sorts of different factions. Each of them we really wanted to make sure that not only do they have a unique visual style, but they have a really unique elements into the story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so another aspect of the story that we've been working on recently is how to provide ways for the players to really bond with each of the officers on your crew. So you're going to have crew background missions as well as traits missions, and this are like at the core of the interactions with each of your crew members. So you'll be able, when you're on the bridge, to pick up these crew missions from your officers, and depending on how you behave during those crew missions with them, you'll develop a stronger or a weaker bond with each of them, and that will lead them to develop some personality traits. Yeah.
Which will be really interesting if you ally with one specific faction and then you have officers of another faction on your bridge. That can create some interesting tension that, you know, can kind of impact gameplay. So it really is going to allow for a lot of dynamic scenarios and allow for the player to really kind of make allegiances and form strong bonds with their officers, which is something that we really wanted to focus on.
Yeah, it's also a way for us to put more emotions into our story, because if you have a way to bond with your officers and then something happens through a mission or something, or you get to know really who they are, then it's more than just simple storytelling. We want the player to feel something for those guys, and to have like really strong decisions to make if they want to recruit a new person that might have different skills. But are they really gonna let them go because they have been through mission with these guys and they have learned to know what their background story is like? So it's gonna be like a tough decision between keeping the guys that you like because they're cool, but maybe recruiting someone who has the right skill for the next mission that you might want to take.
Yeah. We really want to push the role-playing element in the role-playing game. It shouldn't just be a bunch of stats. We really want the player to get immersed in the decisions that they're making throughout the story.
Mm-hmm. On the UX side of things, I've also worked with game designers to improve the UI of different elements of the game. So for example, we've worked on the refitting. So maybe you can talk about the refitting and how the modules integrate into the ship and how you can like really customize your ship, which was a strong element that came out of the survey that we did.
Yeah, we really wanted to make sure that the player has a lot of customization with how they're able to approach situations with their ship. So for example, currently one of the things that I've really been working on is making all the different ship weapons for space combat. We want to make sure that the player has a wide variety of weapons that they can choose. So if you want to use torpedoes to kind of be like a sniper off in the distance, you're able to do that. Or if you want to have point defenses or rockets, missile launchers, rail guns, all sorts of different things. Really being able to make it so that the player is able to kind of choose the method that allows them to play how they want to. And then on top of that, there's also modules that the player can add onto their ship, which will modify the various skills that their officers give them, or various kind of bonuses to the ship.
Yeah, so the ship capabilities and the officer skills should really like create a mix that will allow the player to express through a specific gameplay. And so when you're docking at the station, you'll have access to this refitting interface where you can compare the different stats from having one module or having a different one. And another interface that we've been working on that you will be able to access also when you're docking at a starbase is the trading interface. So player will be able to trade when they get when they dock on a starbase or when they orbit a planet. And we've recently reworked how you can bargain what you want to sell or what you want to buy with the people there, and depending on the starbase or depending on where you are in the cluster, there are some different needs and resources. So we've worked on making this clear to the player so that he knows that, for example, if he has such things in his cargoes and he goes to a planet where the things that he's got in his cargo are needed, then he can get a better price for them and he can trade more things and stuff like that.
So it'll essentially allow the player to have a really interesting economy in the game. The player will be able to kind of, if they want to be a warlord and just fight all the time, you can do that. And if you want to rack up all of this cool money to be able to buy the best ship weapons and best ship parts and everything, you're going to be able to do that. It kind of gives you a kind of almost like a what are you buying, what are you selling kind of aspect to the game. And
the way that you have allied with the different faction is also going to influence this. So for example, if you're super friendly with our Arkwright friends, then you're going to be able to get modules from them, or you'll get a better price if you want to buy an Arkwright ship, or you might want to do favors through the side missions to improve your faction standing with those guys before you go and buy like a ship from them.
Yeah. And if you do missions for the Arkwright faction, then you might get blueprints that'll allow you to build the more powerful Arkwright ships. Mm-hmm. So you kind of it's a way that we're kind of plugging in player progression as well as player customization to allow them to really feel like there's a lot of stuff that they're going to be able to do. And that's just going to be part of the customization. There's also going to be a really in-depth sort of exploration aspect to the game where we're going to have these cool sort of like data caches that have audio logs or text logs that the player can learn a lot more about the story from. For example, if you wanted to find out more about a specific, you might come across a bunch of derelict ships all floating around in space, and there's a data cache there, and you might find out that there was a really interesting battle that killed off an important lore character that that might have been spoken about previously, or you might find some cool blueprints there or something.
Yeah, so we've spent a fair amount of time writing lore for different pieces of the story. So there is lore for the planets. So there is like a historical lore that tells, what each of the planet is like, how it's inhabited, if it's inhabited. There is lore as well for all of the main secondary and tertiary characters of our story. And there is lore for your crew officers, of course. And so depending on the missions that you take, you can do different types of missions in the mandate. So we have what we call the main storyline missions, but on top of that we have faction missions, which will dive into more the history of each of the factions and the political conflict that is taking place in the French clusters. And you also have, like I said earlier, the crew background missions and the traits mission. And then on top of that, you have just side missions, which will probably be a little shorter. But they give you access to these lore pieces as well as different types of rewards.
Yeah, as well as kind of exploring on some of the lore characters in the game, like our friend Admiral Suvorov. You might be able to learn more about him and what he's been up to, and some things that you might not be expecting from the game. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of surprises that we have in store.
Yeah. So, for example, at the moment, that's what I'm working on. I'm working on one of the main storyline missions for Chapter 2, and it's taking place in the Penrose Enclave. And so the player is progressing in his investigation, and he's doing this main storyline mission. And so how we do things is that first we have like our high-level main story arc, and from this we have written down rough mission designs, and then we're taking each of these mission design and we're fleshing it out and trying to think how to make this mission more interesting, or do we have the possibility to offer the player different ways to succeed in these local goals. And I'm also making sure that each of the goal is clear to the player so that you don't have to roam around and wondering what is your local goal, because sometimes that's something that happens, in the game. So how to make these steps, objectives very clear, and how to balance the gameplay with the dialogues and also the cutscenes in the game.
Yeah.
So that's what I've been doing at the moment. And for example, for this mission, I've went to Greg and I said, look, I want to make this mission about hacking a communication array. So can you come up with something? And so we looked at stuff.
Yeah, pretty much. Amy came to me and said we need this communications array, and I said, all right, what's the purpose of it, and what do we want to use it for? And we sat down and we talked about it, and we came up with a really interesting concept for these hacking challenges in the game that the player is going to be able to interact with. So you might come across pirates that have taken over this communications array, and they're using it to broadcast like pirate radio, and that's no good. You want to stop that right away.
Yeah, no spoilers.
Yeah, no spoilers, sorry. But communications arrays are also how you're going to be able to communicate with faction leaders. So if you get a mission from Anastasia Romanov back there, and you need to communicate with her, you need to find one of those communications arrays that'll allow you to transmit your message back to her.
So yeah, that's pretty much what we're doing.
Yeah.
All day long.
So what now?
Thank you for listening.
Yeah, thanks for listening. And we're really excited to be able to talk about the game and to show off some of the cool stuff that we've been working on. And wow, they decided to get the two most introverted people on the project to do this interview.
So they sent an email and we didn't read it, and so we were left in the office, so we had no choice.
Yep.
Well, as you can see, 2017 came and went. Nothing really happened. No early access, no fucking nothing. The company go under between 2017 and 2018. Not only that, but during 2018, even the forums already was a shit show. Most bots and things like that, filling the forums with Chinese diplomas or cheap medicine to where you could get without any medical assistance or something like that. People still go there out of morbid curiosity, myself included. Others were just there to laugh at what was happening. Interesting enough, the PayPal was still active, so you could buy the game there. Until to this day, I think the pre-order version on the backer kit's still up, so don't go there, throw money, please. Don't be that stupid. In the end, this was supposed to be just that. Questions. What the fuck? What are we gonna do? What ended up going wrong? People asking refunds then would never even appear. And the answers would never come forward. We don't have anyone from the upper echelon, the management of the company, with an update saying, well, look, we're honest, we fucked up, shit is bad. No article from any of the media outlets who talked about the games, Rock Paper Shotgun, Eurogamer, Gamers, CZ, or any of the YouTubers who talked about it. The game just vanished. This was one of those Kickstarters who was quote-unquote big profile. It went out with a whimper, not with a bang. Well, until not that recently. I found a post on Reddit, because why not, where someone ended up describing their vision for what happened to the mandate. Describing a little bit of their experience, and, well, I will be censoring the name of the person, but you are smart enough of a boy or a girl, or whatever, who is watching this, to put the pieces together, and you know where Reddit is, right? Don't you? So go there and work out from it. I'm not gonna leave the link on the description, I'm just gonna leave the screenshots. There were took from the Twitter. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I will send a couple final words. This video is not anything like that. It's not a PSA to not Kickstarter or stuff like that. Try to manage your expectations. Don't board the hype train for Kickstarter or for anything like that. Don't fall for the hype on YouTubers, even myself. Hell, I do fall from the hype, so take for myself, don't do it. Be for your new favorite 4X strategy game or for your new porn game or whatever it is, have a sense of caution. Question yourself if the developer can finish what they're promised. Not because it's your dream game, then your dream game can come true. That's the thing. I find it's just sad and no one else talked about it. I found then with thousands and thousands and thousands of lists about thousands of Kickstarters that fucked up, then didn't came out, and whatever happened. No one talk about this, and well, in the end, as Angry Joe said, it may end up being just something that was swallowed by the news, both for its rise and on its downfall. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's the sad story about the mandate. Not only for the people who spend money on the project, and yeah, you probably spend up to $300 on it, even more if you back more than once. But remember, there was a couple of people, a couple of developers who may lose job opportunities, who end up moving from cities to the place where the developer were, country even, to a place where they didn't know fucking anyone. And that's a little bit sad. And now that, to be honest, left a little bit of one more people with a lot of more people with a little bit of a foot behind when going up to see a Kickstarter or any crowdfunding. Maybe even the smallest ideas for many people will now see as something completely overambitious. Still to this day, I wish we could see a game that would come close to the mandate. I still enjoy the idea of a more roleplay focused game with a good tactical boarding combat and a ability to explore the galaxy and have a little bit of a ship combat. But nowadays, anytime that I see anyone talking about it, I may just think it's just a little bit overambitious, huh? Or I already see this move once before. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. There's not much else to say. I'm gonna leave you with the screenshots. They already were for a couple of seconds. You're a smart boy, girl, or whatever you are, so you can search for the person yourself. It was featured on this video once. See you next time. And one thing. Take care to not place too many cats in one bag, please. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. This was the video. If you enjoyed, leave it a like. If you didn't, leave it a dislike. If you have anything to say, please leave a comment. And if you want to see what the hell is gonna be coming next on this mess, subscribe. And see you guys on the next episode.